Hello and welcome back to Green Money Momentum, where we talk about market movements, making money, and money momentum. I'm your host, Trevor, and we are here for yet another daily talk of stock and a bunch of money to be made and money momentum today. The markets soared very green, so some big, massive green candlesticks across the entire market, especially in the plays that we're going to be covering today. And the major headlines today were all around the Trump trade deals, so around Trump and Canada, and then also the big, beautiful bill. And so with this big, beautiful bill, there is a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt about the trillions that are expected to be added to the United States by 2034. But as we saw the markets push up today, I personally think that the big, beautiful bill is a positive. So right now, the big, beautiful bill is being passed by the Senate, then is going to be by the House, then is going to be looked at by the House. And the deadline that was initially set by Trump earlier in the year is supposed to be this Friday, July 4th. So the markets are pushing up for anticipation of this bill. And there is a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt around the trillions that are going to be added to the United States by 2034. We also know that Elon Musk is not a fan of the big, beautiful bill. But if you look at it in the entirety and you look at, why Elon Musk is so fearful about the debt and why this is such a headline is because of all the tax cuts that it presents, which just means money is going to be a bit more stimulative and money will be in more pockets. And because of that, money will be able to be invested into the market. So not only that, but we now do have the Fed being a bit more dovish, saying that they're planning on being a bit more lenient when it comes to money policy very soon, saying that a rate cut may come sooner than expected. And so with that, the markets have been jumping up from that also. And so the money printers may be being turned back on. And when we look at the major indexes of the SPY and the triple Qs, they have pushed past where they were earlier in the year in January before there was all the bleeding. And so this makes me very, very happy. And it's funny, I wish I had like a Trevor was right about everything hat, kind of like Elon wore earlier at the White House about Trump was right about everything, because during this entire bleed and during this recovery, I kept saying that I am bullish on the markets. And personally, I took this bleeding as a buying opportunity to buy into all these great plays and opportunities. But it must be exhausting to be a bear, because during this entire great recovery, all they were calling for was for the markets to drop. If you're a new investor, keep this in mind, because this always happens when the markets do have a bit of bleeding, or if there is a little bit of a retraction. The bears tend to be louder than the bulls, but the bears over time are always wrong. So the bears always look at these small times in history, and they will point out all the crazy news about fear, uncertainty, and doubt in different sections of the economy, whether it is about grocery stores, and whether it's about inflation, whether it's about the United States debt. But the markets always recover because of exactly what we're seeing now, and that is that the United States will not allow themselves to fail. And if they need to turn on the money printer, they will definitely do that. And so right now, investors are feeling greedy, as they should. And when it comes to the economic calendar, the major news that we have, a big catalyst that we may see tomorrow morning, is going to be Fed Chair Jerome Powell is going to be speaking. And so there has been a lot of pressure on Jerome Powell. We know that the president has been wanting him to cut rates, and even the Fed governor is saying that he wants to see a rate cut as well. So Jerome Powell has been being criticized a lot about the rate cuts. And so it's going to be very interesting to see what comes out of this speech tomorrow. And just like this great trend that we have been seeing on, I personally don't think there's anything Jerome Powell could say that's really going to push down the markets. So the markets right now really only care if there's dovish statements from Jerome Powell, basically dovish being good statements on rate cuts, whether there will be a rate cut coming sooner than later, something along those regards. But if he does say something hawkish, so something bad about rate cuts, it's really not going to matter too much, because we know going into 2026, there will be a new Fed chair appointed, and that is going to be by Trump. And you better bet that he's going to pick somebody that is a lot more in favor of these rate cuts and right alongside the plan that Trump is looking to do. So overall, the markets are pushing up for the anticipation of rate cuts and the more stimulative, easy money time period that is to come. And so with that, talking about the bulls and the bears, we're actually going to talk about the big bear and why we are bullish on the big bear first. So we're going to talk about BigBearAi, DJT, and we're going to finish with RobinHood Stock. So we're going to start out here today with BigBearAi, and super excited about the big bear because the big bear soared all the way up to $7.20 at one point today. Right now, it is sitting at $6.89. I'm recording this just about an hour after the market closed, but overall, a lot of momentum in the big bear today. So just over the last week, big bear has soared up massively, up 75% for the month alone. And with big bear, it has really pushed past all the major levels of resistance that it was previously facing. And so it ripped all the way up to this major level of resistance that is now sitting as a support right around $6.70. And I personally believe that just like how the markets have been ripping up and people have been bearish on the overall markets, I believe that you just need to respect the trend building within BigBearAi, because I personally believe that we are going to return right back to that 52-week high. That would be a 31% jump from where we are at right now, and we did see that massive gap up today. So right now, when we do look at the other indicators of the relative strength index and the MACD, we are looking a bit overbought on the RSI, but it does appear we have a bit higher to run on the MACD. And so personally, I am staying within the big bear. I did not sell out of any of my positions today in big bear. I believe that this stock is only going to soar, and I believe that we are seeing a bit of a squeeze right now. So when we look at the volume, we could see that we have seen the most volume we have seen all year, and we also do have a significant high short interest. So a lot of bullish investors hopping into the big bear, and also a lot of bears against the big bear, but those bears are having to eat some of their shorts right now because the price has been really ripping up, and it hasn't been off of any particular catalyst to say. So when I searched in big bear and looked at the news, the only thing I could find was this article here, and that is that Big Bear is soaring over their UAE tech deal, but this is actually a couple of weeks old. So there hasn't been any big catalysts or anything in particular around Big Bear that has caused this massive jump. What I really think it is more than anything, at the end of this coming month, so today, the last day of June, tomorrow, first day of July, at the end of July, we're going to have Big Bear's earnings. And I believe with this earnings, there's going to be some big catalysts, whether it's they had a very positive Q2 or whether they have positive guidance for the future. We know that Big Bear has recently gained some big government contracts that haven't showed up in the earnings reports yet. So that is still building within the Big Bear. And I think that Big Bear is only going to rip up in anticipation for their earnings. And then it's going to be interesting to see what we see with that earnings. So I personally believe that the positive price movements will continue, even if there is a bit of a retraction in the Big Bear. We have gained so much momentum in these last couple of weeks. I really don't think that we're going to return back down to $5, $4, and definitely not $3. So myself, I'm very bullish on the Big Bear. I'm very excited to see what this next month brings. And I know that the Big Bear is a favorite on this channel. So for everybody who is invested, congratulations, because this was super exciting and it really made my day. And so we're about to hop into our next ticker, which is DJT, the President's stock. But I also do want to let everybody know that today will be my last video until Thursday. So tomorrow and Wednesday, sadly, I'm going to be out of commission here. As you guys know, I run a business in the day, and I'm going to have to be attending to that over the next 2 days. So they're going to need me out there. So I will be away from you guys over the next 2 days, but I do want you to know that I am bullish on the markets for this entire week, especially with Friday if the big, beautiful bill does get passed. Also, this is a short week, so Friday the markets will be closed, but imagine if that big beautiful bill does get passed, the type of markets that we will see next Monday. And so again, with the big beautiful bill, who is making that possible? Well, that's the president, Mr. DJT, and this is his stock right here, Trump Media and Technology Group, and the stock currently sitting at $17 and had a decent pop today. So the stock up 3%, up 59 cents today. And when we look at the long-term analysis on DJT, I'm going to say what I have been saying, and that is that we are currently in the basement. So I consider the floor on this stock to be right around $21. That is where we have bounced multiple times on the chart. So we are low. We are on a very low spot when it comes to the candlesticks, looking very, very oversold there. And the same to be said when we look at the relative strength index and also on the MACD. So technical analysis wise, everything is lining up for there to be a rip coming in DJT here in the very near future. And with DJT, the reason why we invest into this stock is because of all the intrinsic value behind this company and everything that they are doing. So some look at this as just a truth social platform, but let's remember that the president did a lot earlier this year when it came to Bitcoin, talking about it being added to the treasury at the White House. And now the company of TMTG is talking about their Bitcoin treasury. So they did register for this. This has been approved. This is going to happen. And that is a $2.5 billion treasury, Bitcoin treasury within DJT. And so with cryptocurrency, that sector is going to be one of those sectors that benefits the most from the more easy money period and money stimulation and money printing and lower interest rate environment that we're about to get. And so DJT, the president, has lined up everything when it comes to laws and regulations around Bitcoin. There was recently a bill around Circle Internet Group that may be getting passed by the president, but earlier in the year with what we saw at the White House and then everything that this company is doing, it is really laying down the grounds for the mass adoption into cryptocurrency. And that is what is happening. And I believe because of that, that DJT's value is going to soar massively. So right now, being under a $20 bill for DJT, I think is a steal. And you better bet that when Bitcoin starts to show up on their earnings reports and everything like that, the P to E and everything else will get a lot better, only increasing the value within DJT. Talking about BigBearAi and how much pressure the volume from buyers is putting on those short sellers, well, we could definitely see that in the near future with DJT. As we can see, the volume is not too high right now. So if you are investing into DJT currently, you are getting in before any craze, and there is this high short interest here. So similar to BigBearAi, which has a high short interest and which is now having some squeeze activities, we could potentially see the same things in Trump Media and Technology Group. And so, of course, if you're going to invest into BigBearAi or into DJT, you're going to need a brokerage to do so. And that is right where Robinhood comes in. And as you could see, a massive green candlestick here. So this is crazy. I'm looking at the 1-year chart, and this candlestick is this green. So there was a 15% pop in Robinhood today. And this is wild because in my video over the weekend when Robinhood was around like $79 or so, it's crazy to say. Actually, it was in the 80s, low 80s, but it's so crazy to say looking at 95 right now. But I was saying how I have a $100 price forecast for Robinhood. And well, I was saying that maybe by the end of the year, I expected it to come before the end of the year, but I thought it would take a little bit more time than it has because it's already at $95. And so this last year with Robinhood has been absolutely wild. This stock has ripped up since the Liberation Day lows over 100%. And so with Robinhood, what I would say before looking at anything else, even if we weren't talking with the candlesticks and the relative strength index and MACD here and everything like that, if you were talking about just pure basics about investing, something that almost everybody could agree on, whether you know about price to earnings and all this stuff, or whether you're a novice investor who's never even invested a dollar, what what makes the most money, what is notably like the craziest gains, and what people look at when it comes to investing. And people will say, oh man, I wish I would have invested into that, or oh man, the times to invest into that, you know, the internet, different things like that. It's all technology and innovation. What can change the world? Robinhood is changing the world, making it even easier for their customers outside of the United States now to use Robinhood. So Robinhood launched a token today allowing EU users to trade in US stocks. So as this reads right here, it launched tokens that will allow its customers in the European Union to trade more than 200 US stocks and ETFs, including Nvidia, Apple, all the other good ones there. So Robinhood doing a lot this last year. Robinhood in expanding their crypto platforms, expanding out to the EU, and Robinhood does so much. Their earnings are only going to continue to grow. So Robinhood had their first $1 billion quarter in 2024, and they have already seen a ton of expansion in 2025. So they've made some big investments with cryptocurrency and now what they're doing with the EU. So you better bet that $1 billion quarterly will look small in the future. And personally, what it appears here is Robinhood is changing the world and building a $1 trillion company right in front of our eyes. I swear Robinhood really is changing the world when it comes to finance, as all of the brokerages are that you could invest with your phone and everything like that. But Robinhood is definitely number one in my eyes. They have all the stock trading, all the crypto trading, all the options trading. They are a bank as well, so you could deposit money into Robinhood, keep it in a savings account. You could sports gamble with Robinhood. You could do everything. You could have a shared account with others, like a family account on Robinhood. So Robinhood is doing it all, and this major brokerage is only going to continue to grow. As I've said, I have a $100 price target on Robinhood. It looks like I'm going to have to raise that here pretty soon because the gains within the stock are getting crazy. Again, guys, I'm going to be away from the computer tomorrow and Wednesday, so I'll have my eyes on the market, but sadly I won't be able to get in front of the camera and talk to you guys. So as always, I appreciate you all for being here. I wish you the best of luck in tomorrow and Wednesday's markets. I'll be back for Thursday, but it will still be a short week because we have Friday off, but still big news around the big beautiful bill. Overall, I have a bullish outlook on the markets this week. I think tomorrow is going to continue to be green, and I'm very excited for what we're seeing in all of these plays. And not just these plays, but everything in the market was pretty green today. So a very easy day to win overall. I would be curious to hear about what your guys' portfolio looked like today, if you're invested in any of these three plays or others. So please drop a comment in the section below. Let me know. Please leave a like and please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. I thank you guys, as always, for being here for the daily talk of stock, and I will see you in Thursday's video.